Taylor Stein, my friend and my co-host.
I love when we do this together. I think it's so much fun. I've been missing you.
I know. We really needed this moment to just like get into the real.
I think
and
so
get into
too.
the nitty gritty.
I think so too.
Something I've been thinking a lot about is this this aspect of like what it means to fight mediocrity and to keep from falling into just kind of like the lowest common denominator when we have not just AI, but even just the internet itself. It just seems like everything is getting into the lowest possible standards, aesthetics, consciousness, and it's so easy to do what everybody else is doing.
And even if it's not the lowest, it becomes homogenized. Like I've noticed a lot of people using chat GBT or whatever AI to make comments on their Instagram. And so what you notice is everybody starts sounding the same.
It's pretty obvious, right?
Especially when the people are Europeans, which is where I'm noticing it the most. But yeah, we're becoming a nation of homogenized people. So we're becoming robots before robots get to it.
It's really obvious. I was with some people the other day, and they were showing me like a one sheet, and I was like, "Did you guys use ChatGPT to do this?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, definitely." And they weren't pitching me, and they weren't asking for my advice, so I held my tongue. But in my head, I thought, "Yeah, it's obvious."
So, A, how do we stay above it?
Yeah.
B, is it making us dumber? I think it is. And let's go from there. Like, let's talk about how to avoid mediocrity, how to avoid, right? Because what's going to happen is we're going to need critical thinking to stay above the fold.
Yeah. I think you need radical truth for one thing, especially with yourself. Like, you have to know, even if there's nothing you can do about it in the moment, even if you're like, I can't do anything about this, like I'm juggling too much, and like this has got to go out now, and this is the standard that it got to. Like, you have to know what's bullshit, and you have to know what is just like what says you didn't put any consciousness into it. You didn't put any effort into it. It didn't meet the bar. Look, I think every entrepreneur, you would be able to speak to this more. I think every entrepreneur would say 80% is failing. So it's okay to fail, but you got to know when it's a fail before you can be like, yep, this is it. This is the best that I can do. It's not the best you can do.
Well, unless you're failing up.
Right.
And that's valuable. It's actually invaluable. That's how you get to the next stage in your life or your career or your passion. Yeah. But I think what's really important to get to for us is, again, what you said, avoiding mediocrity.
Yeah.
How does one shine in a world where everyone can shine using technology? How does your essence radiate? How do you set yourself above?
Yeah. Well, that I do feel like one is unlocking the heart, and also just de-thawing and deconstructing and like melting all of the, as they say in the yogic texts, non-realities, all the things that block you, because everybody is unique. So it's okay for everybody to shine. There is a spot for everybody.
No, we want it to, but I think people feel like they have to elbow their ways through in order to do that. And that's not the case.
No, originality.
It's actually, I believe, at a point where by doing less and trying less hard to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
So, you know what the key is to me?
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
When you remain authentic, you don't have to try.
That's true.
Right? Because it hits people in the heart.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
That's like now, remaining authentic is difficult.
Peeling back the layers. Yeah. Well, I think that's also like the radical honesty with your own self. Like, can you peel back the layers enough to be truthful with who you are, with what you really want, what you really think is great? Do I think ChatGPT or AI is making us, is contributing to a loss of rigorous intelligence? I think we're seeing the challenge of the Aquarian age, which is what was predicted by so many like seers, which is that time is getting faster. There's more data points than ever before. And if you don't have your own operating system, it's hard to juggle all the data points.
Yeah. And maintaining an operating system when the world is moving so fast is complex because I don't know if you know this, but the way that the human brain works is it can retain a certain amount of information, but what it starts doing is dumping out those files that we don't need.
Right.
So the memory only holds on to a certain amount, and then boom, it starts dumping anything that no longer serves you.
Right.
And so I think that maintaining sort of an original POV is becoming harder and harder to do.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What are things that keep you clear? Well, meditation for one.
Meditation.
Having a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
I think psychedelics. I know we're not on the same page on that, but you can appreciate it. I know
For sure.
that. What are other things that we can do to keep ourselves aligned with our heart, keep mind and body aligned?
Well, I mean, as you know, being a teacher of Kundalini, I'm like mantra, mantra, mantra. You know, I'm on the mantra train. Meditation, of course. That's why these practices are made for this time and really made for the artist as well. They're an invaluable toolkit. But I think in addition to those things, so it's not a broken record situation, I think there are lifestyle practices of just anything that creates a moment of clarity for you. So whether that's a walk or your morning coffee, anytime that you're just going to say, I'm going to turn off for these 20 minutes and become receptive, like let the outside in, the organic living reality in, rather than the technological reality in. I think those are practices to resetting your mind.
May I go controversial on you right now?
Just do it.
Okay, so oh my God, I'm gonna get tons of texts on this one. But I am off the positive affirmation bandwagon.
Girl.
I am off it.
Tell me.
I think so. I've been reading this book that I know I'm obsessed with. It's like become my Bible, the Reality Transfer thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
And while I love mantra, it's not actually the mantra that I believe work.
Yeah.
Because you can say it in languages you don't understand.
Totally, yeah.
I think it's the frequency.
Yeah.
So mantra, positive affirmation, I'm done. I think that it's action and heart-mind alignment.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that he says in his book. What's his name? Vadim Zeland.
Yeah.
And what he says is, so for example, if you have low self-esteem, he says there is nothing you can do for low self-esteem other than one thing.
Tell me.
Intention and action.
Wow.
And the action it can't be outward action.
Right.
It has to be doing esteemable things
Right.
so that you slowly build the self-esteem. He said you can wake up every day of the week and go, I am confident. There is nobody better than me. I am beautiful. I'm a goddess of love and light.
Yeah.
And then one thing triggers you in that day, and boom, the spiral begins, and you're back to that person who went to bed the morning before.
Yeah.
And he said, so while it sounds great, I no longer believe that that's it. I believe it's intention, deep intention with a body-mind alignment.
Wow. Yeah.
And
That's
I love
awesome.
mantra too. I mean, you hear them all over my
Totally.
house. But I think that it's the actual frequency of the mantra rather than the mantra.
Well, it's the sound. And the way that the sound, exactly, the frequency. And it's the sound refertilizes the brain.
Correct.
The vibration, the frequency refertilizes the brain. You need a little shake up. Everybody needs a little shake up. Actually, the sound does it in a really subtle way. And then the permutation combination of the sound pattern gives you different templates of psychology. It's not the meaning itself.
Correct.
It's the actual like frequency, as you're saying. It's the sound pattern.
Well, this is my point.
Yeah.
But like in some of these teachers' classes, you'll hear, this is the mantra for abundance, or this is the mantra for healing. Bullshit, in my opinion.
Your opinion.
I just think it's hogwash.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's actually more advanced than that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really plebeian way of expressing it.
Yeah.
And I think when you go to the ancients and when you listen to the real ancient teachings, not more modern teachers,
Right.
you see that they all become one. It's sort of like honoring one God.
Yeah.
Rather than, as man sort of spreads out among the world, different cultures worship different gods.
Right.
It's one frequency. I mean, it can be many frequencies that bring different things into your life. Yeah. But each mantra doesn't represent a specific, and this one gives you more money. I mean, I remember when I was studying, there was a teacher that used to say to me, if you do this mantra in court, it helps you win legal cases. Yeah. And I believed it.
Yeah. Did you win?
It came out even. Okay. It worked out. It worked. It was a draw. And
okay.
Yeah, and I don't even like to think about battle anymore because the person I was battling, I happen to love very much. Yeah. So, love is the key. Right. Love is the mantra that I will listen to. Right, because it's hard.
Does Vadim talk about working with the numerological matrix and programming the matrix for a certain effect?
No.
Interesting.
That is not something he discusses.
Interesting.
Now, I've only read that one book that's 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
I don't know what other works he has, but there's no numerical, or magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, have you seen some of these videos of these people who sort of find the crack in the wall and they show you the matrix?
No, but I have seen Interstellar, and I think that it's unbelievable. And do I believe that a matrix exists?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the matrix.
We're in the matrix. Yeah. It's numerical.
It's unbelievable. Yes. I mean, somebody who I would die to speak to, and I just love him so much, is Chris Nolan.
Oh, yes.
I mean, boy, does he get it.
For sure. His movies
you can't direct or create that stuff unless you have a deep belief in it.
Yeah, his movies are very intense. Yeah. What was his movie? Was it the Dreaming one with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Right, the one with the time. Right,
was that his?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
it was his. Yeah. And I'm spacing on the name. Right.
Oops.
But it was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah,
with the page girl and
that one was
unbelievable.
He would be fantastic to speak to.
Oh, how do we get him?
I know.
Send him to us, please. Let the Matrix send him. I'm gonna do a mantra to get Chris Nolan on the show.
Well, that's how I've understood mantras in many different ways. And there is a book called I believe it's either the Samaveda. So there's five Ada books. There's 5 Vedic books, and one of the books is called The Vedas of Magical Teachings. And it is just essentially a book of mantras. They're sound codes that are said to move the fabric of space and time in a particular
There is
mold.
No question. I mean, as you and I have talked about before, I believe that the pyramids were built with frequency and sound, right?
Yeah.
So it's not sound that I have the problem with.
Yeah. Well, that's the deeper yogic teaching. It's not the affirmation; it's the sound itself.
Also, you have so many of these popular teachers right now that are filling stadiums of 5,000 people that talk about mantra and positive affirmation. And
I think that positive affirmation can help. It's certainly not going to steal your energy to say something nice to yourself.
No, I think it's going to do nothing.
Yeah,
I think it's going to do nothing.
Or make you feel like, cool, somebody believes in me.
Maybe for a minute.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not a powerful teaching. It's kind of a 101 for me. It's I don't know.
I've never used affirmation.
I've dismissed it.
I've used yoga to actually
we do that one. I am bountiful. I am blissful, beautiful.
So the reason why that's a mantra and not just an affirmation is the way that it's constructed actually rewires the neural patterning. And it's been one that's actually saved me.
Well, I am going to say this, that there are several different versions of it. So I guess it depends which one you were listening to.
That's true. Right? But it's certainly been one that saved my life.
Yeah, or do we project the saving your life onto that? I don't know.
No, I think that's the one that saved my life.
Okay.
That's the one that saved my life.
Look, we are all, that's what's so great about belief systems. We're all entitled to our own.
Yeah, I don't know about belief systems. I call them experience. So I don't have a belief system. I don't believe in things. I have an experience with something.
Okay. Well, practicing Kundalini in of itself is, you believe that it's going to work. And
Well,
so
I
that's
had an
why it does.
experience with it changing my nervous system.
So have I.
So it's not like, I believe in this God.
But I am
believe
blissful,
in this
I am bountiful
person.
and beautiful is a positive affirmation.
Yeah, and it is one that truly, truly saved my life in moments that I really needed
How
it.
do you think that happened?
I think part of it was it opened up my heart. It opened my heart. It made me feel if I needed to cling to something, I clung to that. And it was really a surprise. It wasn't one that I was like, ooh, I want this. It was just the one that I was like able to grasp onto in moments of deep anxiety, deep fear, like mortal panic, where we have this existential, experience that we are having. It's terrifying. And I think people numb it with drugs, and they numb it with alcohol, and they numb it with shopping, and they numb it with all kinds of things. And we don't want to numb anymore. We just want to be strong enough to be inside of it.
Yeah, that goes to the neurological reboot for sure.
So it was like,
we have to be stealth. We have to be strong. We have to be warriors, messengers. There's so much that we're responsible for doing to keep ourselves healthy on this planet right now.
Yeah, and so it's just, if you don't have something that refertilizes the oxytocin in your brain, then you're going to be a walking zombie. And that's a rough incarnation.
It is. So let's talk about things that refertilize the oxytocin.
Right. Well, the sound does. The sound
that is my number one go-to.
Yeah. And mantra does it too.
What else?
I actually don't know. I only know like sound and mantra.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think there are a lot of biohacks out there.
Yeah. Tell me.
I think cold plunges do it.
Right. People are really into cold plunging.
I think exercise does it.
Exercise does it.
I think
for
yoga
sure.
does it.
Good positive relationships do it.
Oh, well, look, positive relationships are the number one yogic practice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a meditation. It's a yoga practice. Like, if your heart's cracked open, you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're good to go. And if you allow it, I mean, so many people, they feel it happening and they squeeze in tight because it's petrifying.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about this. I mean, we've been talking about this with a variety of different guests, but one of the biggest losses of the modern age is the village and the tribe and the community and the relationships. And when you don't have relationships, you're looking for something to feed that, but nothing else really feeds it.
Well, there's an incredible book called Lost Connections. And it talks about just that. It attributes the widespread depression, suicide, to lack of family and lack of community and lack of support system.
Yeah.
And we see that in many ways in our daily life. For example, my daughter just lost a friend, an 18-year-old who was a spectacular human being, really in a beautiful path. And community saved not only his friend group, the school community, but his family to some degree.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, God bless those too. But without community, I remember the father at the memorial service stood up on the altar, I guess you would call it, and said, "Please, all of you out there, don't forget about us. Don't leave us alone. We need you." And that's powerful, coming from a very masculine man in pain.
That's vulnerable.
That is vulnerability. Oh, that's a good one.
I was going to say.
That's a good one. Vulnerability is a great one.
That's so hard. That's so hard.
But it's
essential. I mean, if you
essential.
can't open up, then you can't let any of it in. You can't let
love.
the relationship in. You can't let the community in. You can't let the whatever else you're seeking in. There's all kinds of fulfillment that people are seeking.
I think so too.
And the vulnerability is so essential and so terrifying.
And let's talk about fulfillment.
Yeah.
So what do we do in a world where people are working out of their homes? Mm-hmm. They're not connected.
Right.
You forget how valuable the office place was, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you go there and you exchange ideas.
Totally.
And you start with one idea and after 5 minutes of a conversation, you end up with something entirely different, and it's fantastic.
Totally.
Well, that's eliminated.
Yeah.
Children who are seeing their psychiatrists on Zoom.
Yeah.
So how do we stay fulfilled in a world that is literally ripping that ability away from us?
Yeah. I mean, I thought I understood that some of that work from home stuff was going away, that the office was coming back. Maybe
Do you think it is? I don't think it is.
Yeah, and perhaps not. I mean, there was something really, really creative about the office, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and then the working from home, you don't see as many people, you don't have as much creative input, you can't generate new ideas.
Let's use me for an example, like fulfillment. Like,
yeah,
it's hard for me to find fulfillment, so I have to go inside.
Right.
I have to find teachers,
Yeah.
which I love. But as you know, our community was, I wouldn't say decimated, but
Right.
it's going through its growing pains. For sure. And so that was the most fulfilling thing in my life other than my children.
Yeah.
And so now I have to replace it.
Yeah.
Now that's great because that's expansion.
Right.
But what do you replace it with?
Right.
A job? Okay, that's great. If it's a creative job, it's a job you love. If it's a job where you're bringing beauty to the world, but it's really difficult to seek out fulfillment. It's like a passion. How do you create a passion?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, I guess in my case, if I'm just thinking about myself, like I have really strong desires and I'm very clear about them. So I know what I want. And they're not like, it's not sort of like once I get it, I'm, going to be happy, so to speak. But I know that I'm going to have that gratification of accomplishment and achievement that is something I'm required.
It's a prong on the ladder.
Yeah, exactly. It's like these are things that are definitely like must happen. So for me, that's fulfillment. Without those things, I don't know if I'll be fulfilled because I'll feel like I didn't really achieve the mission. I feel very mission oriented. That's how a big way I'm programmed naturally.
Well, I love the idea of it. And I think you're actually right. I think it's little achievements.
Yeah.
That as you keep having them, right, your self-esteem goes up. Your love of self, your passion, it starts to increase. So there's no quick fix.
Right.
It's a life of achievements
and
failures.
Yeah, and failures. And to your point, sort of like the question, like what is fulfillment? And I do think there are different types of people in what they show up for on earth, and like what is their purpose. Purpose-driven life was something that was really coming around in the early 90s.
Oh, that book? Oh, yeah.
It's kind of cheesy now, but I had
Secret.
The Secret. But just like, what is your purpose? Some people's purpose, I feel like I'm going to be like those guys who I was making fun of the other day.
Go for it.
Some people's purpose is to have fun. It's to enjoy life. And it is to enjoy just being here. Some people's purpose is to like really nourish that family structure. And some people have a really a purpose that is actually going to take them a little bit farther out from their immediate circle. But I think
give me an example of that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think some people have a purpose that requires them to be more active in the world.
I see.
That it's not just like about
their
family.
Changer.
It's not just about their family and community. And that neither one is better than the other.
No.
It doesn't denograte either one.
No, whatever fulfills you is the
exactly.
right one.
But I think started to get into clarity around getting into clarity around the feeling, what feels like fulfillment, what little things bring you fulfillment. Maybe that is something that illuminates the greater purpose of what you are, and following your purpose thread creates more fulfillment.
Look, if you are blessed to understand that about yourself and know where you want to go, you've got the gift right there. I mean, it's packaged up and given to you.
When I'm feeling off purpose, that's when I'm my most uncomfortable.
Oh, me too. Yeah, which is often, by the way. But I look at it as growth. I'm at the point in my life where now when I'm struggling, I can say, okay, Taylor, how do you turn this into a moment of growth? How do you turn this into a moment of expansion? Yeah. Know that it's passing.
Right.
Know that you have the answers. Dig deep and pull them out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens immediately, and sometimes it goes long stretches. I mean, I've worn many hats in my life, and they're all satisfying. And then the passion dies, and I'm on to the next.
Totally.
So you were talking about your mission.
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh gosh, I'm a little shy to share it in the open for some reason.
That's
I know it's
interesting,
silly, but
manifestation. Say it. Bring it out to the universe.
My mission, I have a few different missions. And I think some of them want to stay private. So unfortunately, I can't share it.
No one's asking. No one's asking you to do that.
But I have a mission to share new possibilities of existence that bring greater integrity to the biological functioning and the spiritual functioning.
So would this be in your teachings? This is what you teach?
It's part of the that's why I teach, because I think it's a great set of tools to get in touch with who you really are and how you want to operate in the world. And I think it's great for getting yourself into biological integrity as well.
Yeah, I mean, no better way to bring your magic to the world than to teach.
Yeah. So, but it's to make it a more umbrella thing. You know, we're really in a lucky time, this quote unquote age of Aquarius moment. Before you were born into a certain family, demographic, whatever, religion, you lived very much according to the structure that was given to you, and then you died. And many people were born into a structure of just perpetual misery. You were born, your parents were miserable, you were miserable as you grew up, you were miserable in your adulthood, you were miserable, and then, you died. And look at that, you had a misery ride. And I think the misery programming is, we are able to move it now in a way we were never able to move it before.
Oh, yeah, we can shift out of that.
Yeah.
But you need tools.
You need tools.
Right.
That's part of what it's like.
You need the tools to shift out. And whether it's a practice or a teacher or something, but it's got to be something that hits you hard and that you can identify with, because without those tools in this day and age, I think we're floundering. Yeah,
I mean, there is a lot out there that can be overwhelming. But I think this is what I mean, more than ever, there's the opportunity to share tools to flip out of misery and into fulfillment, which was never the case before on the planet. You know, that was just like miserable, 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 dead. And they say that, you know, the yogic texts, whatever you believe or not, say that it takes 8.4 million lifetimes to get a human body. So for someone to live that time of their life in misery, I think I won't stand for it. Like, I just won't stand for it. So I'll put myself out there to support somebody else's positive incarnation.
Well, there's also that belief system that light enters at the wound. So we do have to have misery and painful moments. I mean, they're a big part of the journey.
I think pain is really different from misery.
It is. Misery is the lingering that when we refuse to let go of those painful moments.
And you just are in the negativity.
Right. It becomes like a cloud that travels around you.
A lot of people, one of the big things, a kind of misery program is a sexual misery programming.
Oh, wait, I don't know about this.
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, the perpetual dissatisfaction. You might not have this problem, and I don't have this problem either, but there's a perpetual dissatisfaction.
we just want to clarify.
We don't have this problem. I'm sorry.
No sexual dysfunction here.
Well, not no sexual dysfunction, but the sexual misery.
Explain it to us.
Well, first of all, most people have are perpetually dissatisfied in sex. There's a lot of women who have zero satisfaction. They don't have orgasms. Like 60% of women report not having orgasms. And I think a lot of you actually brought this up once, that like people who are, there are people who are more sexually experimentative, who have freer inner lives. But I think the constant hunt to innovate is actually a sign of a sexual misery programming, because it can be quite cosmic if you're just present with the other person. But that's a real piece of shame that people carry around with them.
And so, what is that? The inability to have intimacy? What do you attribute that to?
I wonder if it's. Let me take that one for a second, because I'm talking about a kind of like the true creative orgasm. Is it about the inability to have intimacy? Or is it just an energetic cap that has been on humanity for a long time?
Well, the latter sounds absolutely horrifying. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that that's not it, because I've had some extremely galactic orgasms, and they shift you.
Yes, exactly.
They shift
you. The galactic orgasm shifts you. Sex is positive.
Also makes you really nice.
Yes, it's a positive. Sex is a positive. But, for thousands of years, sex was viewed as a negative in religious, spiritual contexts.
In some cultures, correct.
Yeah.
In some cultures.
Well, in the dominant religion of the planets.
That is correct.
Yeah, dominant religions of the planet, which occupies the psyche of...
Yeah, but there have always been those outsiders.
Yeah, there's always the outsiders, but but I'm not talking about the outsiders. I want to help the people who are like stuck.
Yeah, well, I don't know that we're doing away with the Catholic religion today, but I will say that it seems like religion's on its way out.
Yeah, I wonder. I saw a New York Times article recently that was talking about like a new wave of young Catholics, and I didn't read the full article, but the first page of it was, just like the neon like experience of the bigger experience of being inside of church again.
I think a lot of that is in response to the woke movement. I think that kids are moving back to sort of what they view as like conservative living, and like it's their way of taking a stance. Because Juno, my daughter, was saying that in her school, it was a trend right now to wear crosses, even if you were Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has nothing, that it's really not a symbol of religion to them. Now, their parents don't understand it, because I remember the parents saying to me, what? It is a religious symbol. Yeah. But I think in this particular day and age, it's a wink to the fact that they're not woke.
Interesting. Fascinating.
Because, the far right tends to be more religious and Christian religion. Yeah. And so that's one interpretation. I'm sure that there are many, but I do not think religion is making a comeback.
I think that there might be that. I think there's also a bit of people needing the sacred and finding the sacred in something that's familiar to them.
A container.
Yeah, and if a container that's familiar to them, I have these friends who I just love, like crazy love them. And they were yogis, and then now they're Christians. And I think for them, Christianity is like their parents practiced Christianity, their grandparents practiced Christianity. This is something that feels familiar to them.
And there are also people that need someone to follow. They jump from spiritual teacher to spiritual teacher to religion. I mean, that is a path, and we've seen it. And
totally.
Yeah. I mean, we both know of people who have done that.
Absolutely.
So, I think there's some people that do like containers. Yeah. And it makes them feel safe.
Yeah. Well, and it's a structure, and you're right. It is a container. I have seen that for certain people, that kind of container is very helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
it keeps you from spiraling.
Yeah. And it also keeps you from doing things that are out of character, to things that you don't want to do. Now, you should be able to do that just from your own self-authority and self-sovereignty, but they don't have that developed yet, so they're using their religion to help them create a container to keep their actions in alignment with what they'd like to be doing.
Okay, so that is right. I hope that you and I are both beyond that. Needing someone to contain us from doing it. God. That doesn't sound very advanced, but I'm sure it's true.
I feel like I'm on the hardest path there is, because I'm on a self-initiated path. And there's a passage in the yogic teachings that says, like, most people won't do a self-initiation. They want to, like you said, they want to follow someone else. And I'm not interested in following myself, but I guess I am interested in following, trailing myself, watching my thoughts, watching my patterns. Is this action in integrity? Is this the way I want to behave? Was this the highest way that I could show up in this moment? And is this something that's coming from my true inner self and my inner power? Developing my own power. I don't want anybody else's power. I want my own power. I don't need your power.
Exactly.
Take my own power, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're taking someone else's power, they're getting something from you.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. So self-agency is
Self-agency.
it's always the key.
The self-initiated individual is a rare individual. It takes a lot of guts.
And I think nowadays it requires even more guts.
Yeah.
Because, I take that back. Like there were times in the 50s and, there have always been people trying to, look, free thinkers are a threat.
Totally.
You're just a threat.
100%.
It's like wearing a sign that says, I am threatening your establishment, right? I'm not going to jump into your... Back to Vadim. I'm not going to jump into your pendulum.
Right.
And
wait, what is that? What's a pendulum?
Oh, you're not everything.
Oh
is a pendulum.
My God!
Every
really?
thought system, every group, we're surrounded by them. Oh. Our lives, our school systems are pendulums. Political systems are pendulums.
Yeah.
Ideations are pendulums.
Yeah.
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
And the trick is to not get pulled in and to not resist.
Fascinating.
Because by doing either, you become a part of the pendulum. It's an interesting way of referring to some degree to karma.
Interesting.
So he also says something very fascinating that I've been stuck on. I'm going to share it with you, even though this is totally out of context right now. But he says that certain people with people that lack empathy, people that, for example, he gives examples of kings and presidents. He said these people actually don't have karma because they don't move energy along. They're guilt-free.
Wow.
Guilt is karma.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful frequency. It's one of the most troubling ones. Guilt and fear. Yeah. And so these people tend to live longer. Yeah. They don't have certain types of cancer because there's nothing festering in.
Wow.
And it makes sense.
That is fascinating.
Think about it.
Yes.
They are karma free. Wow. Doesn't mean it changes the path in their next life.
Right.
It just means they suffer less in this one.
Wow, interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of I went to go see that channel, Paul Selig.
Oh, right. Oh, he was in town. That's right.
He was in town.
I saw that.
Yes, and we'll get him on. We'll get him on in the
I took a course with him,
Oh, yeah?
At Esalen.
Well, he is he's channeling these beings from wherever, but their point was precisely that you cannot resist or engage, like both poles get you sucked into the thing that you quote unquote don't want to be a part of.
He channels a consciousness group.
Right.
It's a multitude of it's very interesting. He does that repetitive talk. It's so
really
cool.
hard.
So what were some of the things he that came about in that?
He was talking about unlinking from fear.
Oh, it's a hard one.
And
I think that's the hardest one.
I think that is the hardest one. He was like unlinking from fear. And I was really surprised because he talked a lot about war too. And I did not expect that to come up in the conversation. It seemed like something that could be not necessarily poisoning the pot, but just sort of like, like talking about the war is talking about the thing we shouldn't be talking about, or, but I think there were other people in the room who might have been thinking about it.
Can you go a little bit deeper into the kinds of things he said?
He was talking about war, of course, stemming from fear. And I think it was a discouragement for people to get, hung up on war as in the war, the wars within. The war is within.
Look, I think it does stem from fear, whether it's national fear or individual fear, right?
I mean, it's a challenging thing. Is there are countless wars ongoing all over the planet.
Fear is the most effective means of manipulation.
Yeah.
As we've seen during the COVID, as we've seen during wartime.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get the lemmings to line up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so now, but getting aggravated, it's just a challenging thing because it's good to be aware of these wars. It is good to have compassion over these wars. It's good to have your own stance around the war, but having your own aggravation get caught up inside of it is also destructive and pulls you into the war cyclone.
Of course, it's really important, and this is going to sound
That's what
really
he was saying,
dark,
essentially, yeah.
but I think it's really important to, and this is why I don't watch the local news actually, but I think it's really important that we don't get dragged in to all the horrors and tragedies of the world because they're enormous.
Yeah.
Right? We can't wrap our heads around it. Doesn't mean we lack empathy.
Yeah.
But it means we have to live in our lives.
Right.
In our moment and bring beauty to that present.
Yes.
And that comes with gratitude.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we forget those who are suffering.
Yeah.
God, I mean, that would be awful.
Insanity,
I mean,
yeah.
That would be insanity. But it's important not to get caught up in it. And you see it oftentimes. Something happens and you'll be hanging out with a bunch of your girlfriends and they're just, boom, looped in.
Yeah.
And they can't get out of that loop and nothing positive comes from that, right? Fear, I think, is the most difficult thing to avoid. It creates anxiety, fear, guilt. These are all really low frequency emotion.
Yeah.
And learning how to navigate them is probably the most valuable tool we have.
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
I think a big one is to get into the moment because in that moment, I mean, Eckhart Tolle made a career of saying this over and over again.
Yeah.
But in the present, fear doesn't exist.
That's true.
Right?
Right.
We're okay.
Right.
It's really when we venture out into the future.
Right. Yeah. In this moment, we are okay.
We are okay.
Yeah.
In this moment, we reel our minds back into this moment. I think breath work is essential.
Well, it strengthens your nervous system so much. I think it's really, I mean, these are challenging and what was the woke way of saying things? Problematic. These are problematic topics. But there's
triggering,
very triggering.
That are triggering topics.
But one of the basic spiritual teachings, I think that you find across all religions, spiritualist movements, everything, is that everything is okay, even in the midst of when it's not okay. That is actually a moment of okayness, that though it seems horrific and tragic, that this is part of the world and you're experiencing something. Now that is easier said than done.
No, and they're absolutely unavoidable. But you're talking more on a spiritual level, like
on a macro level. It takes what it definitely does, whether you believe that or not. And again, problematic in many ways. What it definitely does, though, is it takes away victim consciousness, which I think is one of the worst consciousnesses.
It's so brutal to be around.
And it's very dangerous for the individual because talk about a misery programming. If you take your victim identity around with you, you can never win. You can never be happy. It takes away your victory. Victimhood takes away your victory.
It's designed to rob you of those moments.
So I think it's actually one of the most, that's something I will stake my colors on. I think it's one of the most dangerous ideologies in the world right now.
I agree. And I almost think that people who live in that space are hypnotized.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a state of hypnosis.
Absolutely.
And talk about being locked into a loop pattern. These are the people who will speak to you on the phone for hours, begging you for advice, and you give it to them, and they get off the phone to the exact opposite.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And also, let's take a bigger thought experiment. Let's take somebody, who's experienced real atrocity, like a wartime atrocity. Even then, if you give that person a victim complex, they can never heal. But if you give them a victory complex, that gives them pride, that gives them self-esteem, that gives them the win.
Oftentimes, those people are the strongest. It can often be, believe it or not, the people that really have the least to worry about. Right. They can be in their 120,000 square foot homes and miserable, living in victimhood. You can't be in victimhood when you're striving for survival.
Right.
And you need the next moment. It's almost a luxury problem.
It is a luxury, but I think it's also a woke problem where the woke ideology has created a victim psychology. And you can never say, this happened for a reason, because they're like, how could you say that this happened for a reason? And I get it, things have happened to me in my life. I'm not going to go around talking about them. I just don't find that to be useful time of my energy. But no, I didn't go through some of the atrocities that some people on the planet have to go through right now. That said, if I give that person a victim identity, they can never win. So it's almost like it doesn't matter how bad it was. If you want someone to prosper and soar, you have to believe that they're strong enough to handle whatever comes at them.
Yeah,
and with tools, even if it's bad, it doesn't mean don't get tools.
I get it. But it really usually is the ones who have enough time,
right,
on their hands to be victims.
Yeah,
right. Families in Ukraine right now are not sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. It's a pity party.
Yeah,
and it's a mental block.
Yeah,
and. Oftentimes, the real victims are the ones who get up and are fighting. They just don't have time to wallow in self-pity.
Yeah. Do you think that there is usefulness in unraveling habitual family patterns, lineage patterns?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think whenever we can unravel a place where we're stuck, it only benefits us. I don't know that that's the answer.
Right.
Like, I don't know that family constellation work is the answer,
right,
but it's certainly helpful.
Yeah.
It's a growing experience. Yeah. It can be very eye-opening.
Yeah.
So why not use all these tools, right? It certainly can help.
Right. Yes.
Sometimes it unlocks something that you didn't know existed.
Right.
Right? And boom, losing some of these things that we hold on to is fabulous.
So there's a space between addressing pain and trauma and going into victim pity party.
One more time.
Just clarifying and going into this nuanced space, because I think when some people might hear, I'm not a victim just because I need to unravel my family pain, my family trauma, and I agree. I think.
I agree with that.
Yes, right. There's a difference between.
For sure. One is a mentality that you're stuck in for your whole life. And you can't get out of.
Yeah.
And this, you see somebody 10 years later and they're still talking about the same thing.
Right.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Look, we all have trauma. We all have horrible moments. We all have things that we have to get through.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke.
It's not.
Pain is not a joke. Mm-hmm. Tragedy is not a joke.
Right.
And it requires a lot of work to get through.
Yeah.
So absolutely, unraveling and releasing and purging are vital.
Yeah.
They're vital.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Just being sensitive to that space so that no one is like, those crazy ladies.
Yeah. I'm
not a
no, God, no. No, we're unraveling our own grief and our own pain. No.
Yeah.
Every day.
Right. But I think part of that is what blocks people from their brilliance, actually, is
and their potential.
Right, and their potential. Instead of addressing the thing, they keep perpetuating these habits and it blocks them from.
It is an absolute waste of their potential energy.
Right.
They're throwing it away.
Wow.
And and think about how locked their minds are.
Yeah, it's a whole new way to think about potential energy, right? Because you have the unlimited potential energy of the whole universe.
Of course.
And what do you spend it on?
That's why they say that when people are diagnosed with horrible illnesses, the Maya disappears.
Right.
Like you can't anymore.
Right.
Right. In that moment, the veil evaporates, and suddenly you see some people see life clearly for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's apparently one of the most magnificent experiences.
Yeah.
I've had similar things in psychedelic journeys and in deep meditations, but you can understand how that would open up the skies for you.
Totally. It puts everything into perspective right then and there.
I do think that a lot of these issues we have, and I'm not talking about the big tragedies, I'm talking about the manageable tragedies or emotional discomforts, are there to help us change our point of view.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you bump into stuff, you're just driving, driving this vehicle called your psyche and your soul and your body, and you're driving around and you don't know how to drive.
You bump into shit. Scrape a few corners. Yeah, you're like, whoa, I'm not going to go that way.
Like, oh, that was the wrong street to go
I'm not going
down.
through the outdoor again.
Well, it's like, why do you keep going down that street? You've been down that street a million times.
Right. And there's that.
There's
that. It's a comfort zone.
Right. You know what's on that street.
Right.
You don't have to go down that street
it's
anymore.
Safe.
Right.
It's safe. Yeah. We're comfortable there.
Right. So you get into a few crashes, you learn some things. I do think it does there to help us open up more of our divine, cosmic, infinite, eternal, spiritual natures.
I have to say, I feel like this conversation right now was, for me, what I look for in a therapy session. I'm not looking to tell you over and over what went wrong with my week or, how my husband was a piece of shit last week.
Right.
And this is way more fulfilling, and it gives me so much more to think about and work on. And it also makes me realize that we all share these things in common, and we're all looking for those breaks in the Maya.
Right.
Where we can see life. I know there are times that I'm sitting here sort of feeling sorry for myself.
Sure.
And I say, God, why today am I unable to break through this? What's going on? Why am I holding on to this negative thought pattern?
Well, I have this question that I don't know the answer to, but I guess it's more like I want to point it out as a nuanced thing, the difference between self-pity and self-compassion. Right? Because there you are having a pity party, but actually that's also a moment of wow, I'm going to be compassionate to myself right now because I'm just a human being.
I am really bad at that.
Having a moment, having a pity party, and you know what? I'm going to love myself inside of my own little pity party.
I am
a couple
terrible with self-compassion. That's it. That's on my list. Yeah, it's not a good one for me.
Lick a couple wounds and don't worry about it so much.
Patience and self-compassion, I'd say, are two of my weak points.
Well, I was watching this woman who's she's okay, but she was talking about her lifestyle practices for excellence. And she was like, you need to ruin yourself with disappointment. And I was like, fascinating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because for her, that's called radical honesty.
Yes.
If she didn't hit the mark, she's not going to sit around and be like, it's okay, babe. You didn't hit the mark.
That's more my style.
Right? So
that's more my style.
I totally get it. But I also think there's a way in which that can there's a difference between radical self-honesty and berating oneself, which
I understand.
is just unfair
I
to your own psyche.
Gaggy with the self-love stuff. I get the value. I do.
Totally.
It's just not my personality.
Yeah.
And while personality shouldn't define, personality is just, on top. It's just the covering.
Right.
It doesn't suit the way I maneuver through life.
Right. Yeah.
And perfectionism and I'm a really hard self-judge.
Yeah.
Those are not positive things.
Right.
but they're more aligned with my process.
Right. Yeah. So, and I just thought, yeah, that's an interesting thing that she's going to be really honest with herself about what works and what doesn't work. But I do feel like it's a waste of energy to continuously be cruel to oneself.
I agree.
When you're just kind of like, you know what? I'm down.
I agree.
You know, like I'm down. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to kick myself while I'm also down.
Totally agree.
You know?
I need to stop kicking myself when I'm down.
It's
really, I'm getting all bruises all over my ass.
Wait,
yeah.
I'm going to lick my wounds and tell the whole rest of the world to go
Well, the
F
other
off.
thing is when that's your personality,
Yeah.
that's also how you judge other people, right? You're hard on them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, and I can see that in myself, like with my kids and their grades, I can see myself being a little bit of a tiger mom.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of that whole, I would like to work on that with myself.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's something I have been thinking about. It's sort of if you're gentle with yourself, you tend to be gentle with others.
Yeah. 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 And it's okay. It's okay to be radically honest and gentle.
Correct.
You know,
and that's a winning combination.
That's a winner. That's a winning combination. That's how we win. That's how we rise above mediocrity.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, we circled back.
Know, we hit it. Yeah, we found it.
I am so right on. Wow. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why the office space is so important.
Right. That's absolutely. That's why we have to talk to each other. We have to have conversations. We have to connect. We have to let the outside in. That's why I don't believe in closed-mindedness.
We have to feel each other's energy.
Yes.
We have to be in the same space.
Be in person. I 100%. You know that one of the things I'm working on is the in-person community. And I will say that that's a big piece of both my personal desire and I feel like a part of my mission. But I try to make it a point to have, since the fires, I had a little bit of a pause, but to have as many in-person retreats as possible.
You did not stop.
I did not stop. Oh, girl.
Did not stop.
I was like, stop? No. But to have as many in-person retreats as possible, because it's one thing. Teaching online has been a great way for me to connect with others and for people to connect with me. But that is not real.
And your following is all over the world, so you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, I don't have a choice. But it's better that if you're in, whether you're in Anchorage or you're in Los Angeles or you're in Bucharest or you're in Rome, like you either come to the retreat in Europe or you come to the retreat in California so that we can actually, you got to get in person. And whether that's with me or someone else that you admire or with you,
whoever your teacher is, whoever you want to be
in person with, you got to get in person. These things happen in person.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to start advertising that on the podcast.
I know. I just locked it in.
You just locked it in.
Just locked it in.
Because you do need to be bringing those teachings out. And they're invaluable.
They're valuable. And
you're a great teacher.
Thank you. And I really like my without disowning the incredible sacred order that I come from, my intention with the teachings is tools instead of institutions and personalities. Tools.
I love that.
Initiation.
I love that.
We don't need...
It's empowerment.
It's empowerment. You don't need... And if you need to lean on somebody, I don't mind. I don't mind people leaning on me. I love to be a big sister.
And you're a teacher. They have to.
Yeah, exactly. But my intention is not to keep somebody in a leaning position. It's like, let's get you...
You want to take away the crutches.
Right, yeah. Right up in center. You got this. You got this.
Yeah, you are a bridge and you are a support system.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal is to get them standing on their own.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yes. So yeah, that's why, yes.
On that note, do you have your dates yet for your retreat?
Yes, September 25th through the 28th in Taos. And then I'll be September 30th in Milan and still working out locking down which days I'll be in Paris, Berlin, and Mallorca. But which dates those will be solidified in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be in Vieques, Puerto Rico in February.
That's fabulous. Oh,
yes.
And we forgot to tell our listeners, we have a little news.
Yes!
So we have partnered with Core.live. Which is an extraordinary platform that has lots of esoteric information, and they give it away because their whole philosophy is that everybody should be entitled to the world knowledge. Yeah. And shall we say our thanks to
Yeah,
the founder
absolutely,
of
Martine Dubin.
Of course, Martine Dubin.
Yeah.
And she has been such a pioneer and such an advocate of ours.
Yeah, such
and
a supporter, and the kind of content that she has curated on Core.live is actually incredible, and you don't find it anywhere else.
she's a brilliant pioneer out there, great thinker.
Yeah.
Brings some of the most interesting people into her lives.
Yeah.
And she found us.
Yes.
And we have been blessed.
Yeah, so we're now on Core.live. Thank you so much, Martine.
Follow it. She's got incredible content, and she's one of my heroes.
Yeah.